Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. Today we're talking about Chelsea and whether they might get rid of the old guard in Sarri and bring in new blood in Lampard. And joining me today, we've got two of the old guard of Football Daily. We've got Chris Hamill and Patrick Van Straten. Let's get straight into it, because Alex Webber has asked, do you think Frank Lampard is ready, good enough to manage Chelsea? / do you think Sarri is the best manager available for Juventus? But before we get into that, please, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. Please subscribe to Euro Football Daily and hit that notification bell to never miss a video. Obviously, Chelsea are in a bit of a period of upheaval. They've got a transfer ban till next January, or to the end of next January, I should say. Eden Hazard looks like he's going to join Real Madrid for upwards of 100 million. There's a bit of turmoil going on about whether Sarri's going to keep his job. I think that will probably be decided in the next 10 days. Pato, if he does lose his job, do you think Frank Lampard is a good replacement?
Well, it's not necessarily the case that he'd lose his job. He might throw his job away to go and get perhaps an easier one, a more fun one, a bit better paid one in Italy. If Chelsea face a difficult rebuild, if they have a year where they've got to blood a bunch of youngsters and they can't make transfers and they're going to have some difficulty, it wouldn't necessarily be the worst idea to have a club legend there who engenders some goodwill in the fans, because that's something that Sarri's kind of struggled with this season. Often his substitutions have been booed, his football's been seen as a bit predictable and ponderous. So you could understand why they do that, and it feels like they've already kind of made moves in that direction. They're bringing Claude Makelele into the front office. Petr Cech looks like he's going to be sporting director. So while I think that those are not necessarily very intelligent moves, they are, from a public relations standpoint, understandable. Lampard, it's hard to tell if Lampard's a good manager yet. This season, his Derby side finished 6th. That was the same position as the year before. They took a point less than they took the year before. They scored the same number of goals. They actually conceded 6 goals more than they did in 2017-18. So it's not exactly screaming manager ready to take control of a Champions League side, especially as they were 10th in the league for shots and 13th for shots against. So they kind of look like a middle of the pack side that managed to get some good bounces and push themselves up into the playoff positions. Now, on the other hand, I kind of feel like Lampard is an intelligent coach. He always was an intelligent player and spoke well about the game. So with that kind of humility, you know, like the fact that he was willing to go to the Championship, take a job there and develop himself with some of the backroom staff from Chelsea, that bodes well for his future. However, going from 1 year at Derby to managing a Chelsea side, which is in the middle of what will probably be one of the most difficult seasons of the Abramovich era, doesn't necessarily seem like a good career move for me. And so if I were Lampard, unless I felt like Chelsea desperately needed me and I felt, look, you know, my loyalty to the club means that I might have to take a hit for them, I would stay at Derby and develop myself as a player, as a manager rather.
It seems pretty unlikely, Chris, that Chelsea are going to get this ban overturned, even though they are appealing to CAS at the moment, and we'll probably find out about that in the next month or so. But imagine a scenario where they do get it overturned. Where should whoever is in charge be looking to strengthen?
I mean, replacing Eden Hazard's goal output is going to be a frightening task, isn't it? 32 goals, I believe he's contributed to in the Premier League. Obviously, Pulisic is coming in and he's always been a decent creator, but not provided much in the way of goals. So you're thinking, okay, there's someone there that's played kind of on the right-hand side, maybe down the centre as well, who can contribute in way of assists. But we need someone who's going to take up a wide mantle and score an awful lot of goals, because it looks like Giroud and Higuain are going to fight it out for point man yet again. Of course, Giroud extended his contract. It looks like Higuain's move is going to be made permanent. So yeah, a goal-scoring winger would be high on the cards. They've been linked with Leon Bailey in the past, haven't they? He's not had the strongest finish to the season. I don't think his output this year's replicated that of previous years. And there's been some, you know, decent options already snaffled up, haven't there? In Germany, like Julian Brandt, like Torgan Hazard. Imagine replacing him with his brother. That would have been hilarious. All comes down to the style of the manager, you know, who comes in. At the moment, Maurizio Sarri is probably, you know, the best placed to deal with the impending ban, because he's had a year with the team. They've kind of come round to his way of thinking. We saw a massive upturn in form from February onwards, and he said that I've got 20 or 22 men that I love now, and it finally feels like he's getting to grips with life at the helm of Chelsea. He has been hounded by the English press in the same way that Pep Guardiola was also hounded in his first year, which is kind of interesting to observe, isn't it? And there has been areas that, you know, where he's made himself quite easy to criticise, with the Kovacic substitution and the rotation of Barkley. But you know, we're starting to see at the end of the season with the Europa League victory, and even the little gif of him doing the rounds, observing his medal, like it's humanised him somewhat. And I think that will actually will go quite far in the eyes of the neutral. I think more people want to see him succeed now he's kind of tasted a bit of success with Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea fans, less so than other top clubs, don't really mind what style of football their team plays, I guess, as long as it's a winning style. With Jose, it was really pragmatic, you know, with Roberto Di Matteo, Conte, Hiddink came in, and they've always kind of just shored up the ship, haven't they, and kind of utilised their players in very obvious ways, just kind of played up to their strengths. They've not tried to, create a revolution when they've come in. Ancelotti as well, good example of that. So if Lampard was to come in, I mean, at least he doesn't have to adhere to any particular, style of football demanded by the fans. Like if Sarri went to Barcelona, for example, which we talk about on Sunday Vibes, which I think Sarri, again, well equipped to do. But I wouldn't like to see Sarri go to Juventus. I think they, given their playing personnel, they could, while they're figuring out what they want to be as a club, because the Allegri thing was like, okay, we just need a change, we need to freshen up, we need to rethink, how we're going to play football as a club for the next 5-10 years, and they've got a bit of bandwidth, a bit of time to figure that out, whereas matters are more pressing at Chelsea. Or Barcelona. So yeah. I think he's probably better used there. But yeah, goal scoring winger. I mean, they've got youngsters at centre back who are probably Ampadu and Christensen ready to step up to an extent. David Luiz probably needs his position needs looking at. Azpilicueta could maybe do with some competition. Willian and Pedro kind of spoken about them being over 30 time and time again, haven't we? So there's plenty of areas, but yeah, they've got to match up with the playing style of the manager.
100%. From my perspective, I don't think Frank Lampard should move at all. He's 40, he's had 1 year in management, being their all-time top scorer, one of the legends of that club. That offer of that job in management at Chelsea will not go away. He could have it for any time in the next 15 years, whenever there's a downturn. The time to take over Chelsea is not when you've had 1 year of managerial experience and they've got a transfer ban. It's a lose-lose for Frank Lampard. Unless he comes in with the board's expectations of please try and stay in the top 6. Because if they try and target Champions League football and lose Eden Hazard, I think there's only one way that's going to finish, really. Especially with Pulisic coming in, who is a promising player, but he's not ready to light up the Premier League in the same way that Hazard has. I think he's got 5 goals and 4 assists in just over 1,200 minutes this year. Not trusted by Favre to be the key man there. Why would it be any different at Chelsea? There's issues as well, with Higuain. I think he scored 5 goals in about 16 appearances. All of them coming, I think 4 of the 5 even coming against sides in the bottom 5, forcing Hazard to play often as a number 9 where he doesn't want to play in lots of the games this year. And also, Frank Lampard has a big job to do at Derby still. They only finished a point ahead of Middlesbrough. They scraped into the playoffs, had a great result against Leeds, but lots of their big players this year are now leaving. I mean, Harry Wilson, I think, got 14 goals. He's a loanee from Liverpool. He's interesting lots of the bottom clubs in the Premier League, even like Southampton and Brighton. Mason Mount, 9 goals, 4 assists, obviously a loanee from Chelsea. Tomori, who played the second most minutes in that squad, he's going back to Chelsea as well. So there's loads and loads of issues for Derby County. I was reading quite an interesting article in The Times a couple of weeks ago with Frank Lampard pre-playoff final, saying that when he came in, the biggest thing that he needed to change was the environment around the club and the attitude that they had. There was a real culture of almost negativity, he said, which had been left by Gary Rowett. I'm not saying it's solely his fault, But he said that was his biggest thing that he needed to change, and he's planning to do that over the next 2-3 years, and was pretty excited about the project. So from Frank Lampard's perspective, I don't think he'd want to take over Chelsea right now. Obviously, it'd be difficult to turn it down, but why now when you've got something potentially building at Derby? And also Sarri, I think, has been given a really hard time this year by, us included, I think, at points. He doesn't give a flying f*** really about what the fans want or what the press want and want him to say. He does his own job. And yes, there's issues, but he also came in a month before the transfer market closed. He also only bought one permanent outfield player in Jorginho. There's many, many issues to be solved at Chelsea, but changing their manager now is not the right thing to do. If he gets offered from Juventus, it probably wouldn't be the worst thing to let him go and bring someone else in. But then you also look around Europe and there's not that many top-class options available to come into the Chelsea job. I mean, Pat, off the top of your head, can you think of, if Sarri left and they didn't want to bring in Lampard, who Chelsea could potentially go for?
Well, they'd obviously go for Allegri, and I don't think they get him though, because it's the least appealing that job's ever been right now. Like normally at Chelsea, you knew that you were coming into a club that had a pretty good core of players that only needed a couple of additions, that had plenty of money to spend, and would normally contend at least for kind of top 2 or 3. That's not going to be the case this year, so you wouldn't expect they'd get Allegri. After that, the best available guy would probably be somebody like Leo Jardim, but again, I don't know if Jardim would take it, though maybe the prospect of potentially a relegation battle with Monaco would make him think twice about that. So yeah, I mean, if I would probably go and try and get somebody like Jardim, who is a problem solver, who's going to be able to make do with what he's got, and also with guys like Reece James, Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount. He's obviously got a very good track record of developing young players, so that would probably be the best you could do. I don't know, like Chelsea are at a real crossroads where if some of these kids don't really step up next season, or if they decide they are going to stick with, say, Higuain or Giroud up front, then they could genuinely slip quite a long way down, because we may well see clubs like Wolves and Everton strengthen pretty substantially this summer.
And 100%, and the teams that finish behind them in Spurs, United and Arsenal will probably strengthen massively as well, particularly Spurs and United, you'd think, with the budget that's going to be available for them next year. Chris, we've got to talk a bit, we've talked about it to death, but Hazard, you get offered 100 million on Hazard this year and potentially have this massive downfall next year, or do you force him to stay and let him leave for free next year, and by that stage Real Madrid's targets might have changed?
I think he, and Lampard has actually said as much, but I think his decision, if he's decided to leave after kind of flirting with the idea in the last couple of years, should also be respected. Like, he's been a great servant. 100 million is a great price for someone with 12 months left on their contract. It feels like a good solution for all parties, and you cannot blame him for wanting to leave in the face of the current predicament that Chelsea will have to deal with next season. And a player of his calibre, should be competing for league titles. If any of the top players said this, we'd understand, sort of absolutely. So yeah, I think it's a decent resolution for both parties. I don't think you cling on to Hazard with the ambition just to secure Champions League football for one more year, because the problems are a little bit more endemic than that, aren't they? Especially if they get that transfer ban, because then, they won't be well equipped for this season's Champions League, and they'll just be going through the motions, won't they? In terms of trying to keep top players by saying they're a Champions League club. So yeah, I'd absolutely let him go, mate. Eden Hazard, Real Madrid need a player like him as well. Real Madrid are in desperate need of him as much as he is kind of departing Chelsea. So yeah, I see everyone benefiting from it.
Fair. Right, guys, we don't have a big match preview today, but we're going to get some predictions in early. Who is going to be Chelsea boss at the first game of the Premier League, and who's going to be Juventus boss?
Yeah, I think Maurizio Sarri, Juventus boss, is a little bit more interesting, isn't it? Okay, I'll have to come back to me for that.
I'll kick off. I think it should be Sarri, and I don't really care so much about who's in charge of Juve, maybe Simone Inzaghi, because I can't really see who Juventus really go for other than that. Pat, who do you think?
I have no idea about Juve boss. I actually think that Sarri is quite a weird fit for them, and it would be quite a painful season for them to completely change style. And anybody else they get just feels like an inferior version of Allegri. But I would definitely keep Sarri on at Chelsea. I think that's an easy decision to make.
Maybe Simeone. If Simeone's, if his time's come at Atletico Madrid, if he feels like he's taken them as far as he can go, that Champions League exit to Juventus must have been really painful, because his team's only getting, gradually weaker, isn't it? And the La Liga title seems kind of more beyond them than in the last 5-6 years. So yeah, maybe Diego Simeone.
That's a good shout. And also we've got to bring in the news dropped last night. You probably know it by now, but Conte's gone to Inter, so that's all sewn up. So Serie A next year could potentially be really fascinating, especially with the new AC Milan, Roma, Juve and Inter boss. So we're looking forward to that. Let's move on to our next question. So we kick off quickfire questions with Carlos J's question, and he says Lyon chairperson, I think president, but anyway, Jean-Michel Alou said it's okay to sell Nabil Fekir. Which club need him or should sign him? Pato, thoughts on Fekir's future?
It's a little bit difficult because you do worry about that knee situation. But if I were Atletico Madrid and I was losing Antoine Griezmann, assuming somebody's going to pay enough to get Antoine Griezmann, which I don't think is guaranteed, then I think Fekir would be quite a good replacement. Your first choice would probably be someone like Dybala, and then Fekir would be the next guy after that. He's again good at playing off the wing. He's got decent pressing. He can dribble. He can create. He can certainly score. And I think that if you had him playing off Morata, that would actually be quite a fun front line. So yeah, other than that, it's kind of difficult. I'm not sure that Arsenal have the money. I suppose Liverpool could go back in for him, but there doesn't seem to be a natural suitor at the price point that presumably Lyon would demand. If I were gonna spend 60 mil on a Lyon player, I'd go for Memphis Depay or Tanguy Ndombele.
Yeah, I think it seems pretty difficult to see him going to the Premier League unless Chelsea get that ban delayed or overturned or whatever. I can't really see a natural fit there. I'd probably say Inter Milan, they needed more goals from elsewhere in their side for a while. I'm not sure you swap Lyon for Inter Milan if you were Fekir, but that'd be a great signing for them. Nainggolan obviously has popped up with some useful goals at the back end of the year, but it's 31 now, I want to say, maybe even older. And Borja Vallejo is pretty old as well. Needs some new depth in there, new attacking creativity in there. Chris, where would you go if you were Fekir?
I mean, yeah, when you're puzzling for a destination, you kind of go to the Milans, don't you, at the moment, because it feels like they've got money to spend and it's about time they spend it wisely. So I don't think they're a bad shout. I mean, maybe if Tottenham were to lose someone like Christian Eriksen, they needed more creativity in their side. Nabil Fekir, great. It looks like Ziyech's going to go to a slightly bigger club than Tottenham after that Champions League run. God, blimey, Bayern Munich kind of shopping around for midfielders, aren't they? Despite, who was it they were going in for?
Rodri.
Yeah, Rodri. I think, that might signal the end of Martinez. Thiago Alcantara has actually started 28 games this campaign.
Not bad for him.
In the league, yeah. So he's fitted than arguably he's ever been. Corentin Tolisso not playing once, of course. So I don't know how kind of seriously that injury is weighing over him. But going in for Rodri, not great. So yeah, I think Chelsea might be an interesting shout. On the continent, who's going to have that sort of money to spend? I don't see Roma. Zaniolo's kind of occupying that position, I think, on the pitches anyway, isn't he? Yeah, PSG.
Fair.
Just because they buy any, he kind of fits the mould. When they bought Draxler, when they bought Angel Di Maria, Lavezzi, they're kind of just like an attacking midfielder, don't they?
100%. Yeah, I think it's kind of strange for Moula to come out and say this. I think he must realise that in order to keep Ndombele, Toussaint, Aouar, Depay, he's going to have to Traore even, he's going to have to offer improved contracts. So maybe he's trying to raise some money from that. But it's not quite clear, as we say, where he'll go next. Let's go on to Chloe's question at England Lionesses. The FIFA Women's World Cup is coming up very soon. Who do you think could win it? Chris?
The last game I watched involved the Netherlands side, and they were really impressive. I think they're like 4th or 5th favourites. You can't really put it beyond the USA a lot of the time, can you? Because their women's team is just kind of always out in front, it would appear. But let's hope England, and I read an interesting article with Fran Kirby recently, let's hope that they fare really bloody well. Why not? It's coming home, Digger.
She's back to full fitness. I hope it is. I'm really hopeful for this England side. I think they obviously lost in the semi-final in the Euros, I think, to the Netherlands. They got 3rd last time in the World Cup. Squad full of confidence. Some players playing really well abroad, and Lucy Bronze at Lyon and Tony Duggan at Barcelona. So why not? Pat, you backing the Dutch?
I don't know. The Dutch are certainly contenders for it. I mean, like Miedema's coming off an amazing season for Arsenal. But I think France probably, like France, I think are joint favourites at the moment. I think they're like 7-2 or something, and it's a really, really strong side. So it'd be kind of fun as well for France to do the double, like men's and women's World Cups in the space of a year. That'd be pretty cool.
Surely that's never happened.
It's a good point, actually.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Germany used to win the Women's World Cup quite often.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that coincided.
But I think the Women's World Cup started
so much
after the last time Germany had won it before 2014.
I think you might
On a
well be
subject of Lyon as well, it's a shame that Ada Hederberg's not going.
right. Friend of Football Daily.
Yeah, because she's obviously coming off the back of an amazing season. Lyon have won the Champions League, 4 times now? And she's won the Ballon d'Or, and she won't be there. It's a shame.
Atkins was saying in the office the other day that Lyon have lost something like 10 games in the last 10 years. Is that right? Yeah.
They're absolutely incredible. But I mean, like
Ridiculous.
her goal numbers are absolutely ridiculous in that time. Like often more than a goal a game each season. But I mean, I think she's to be applauded for taking a stand. Like it's not like she's not going to the World Cup because of an injury.
From the Norwegian FA.
It's not just about payment, but generally speaking, the treatment of the men's team versus the women's team. It's unequal, obviously, across the football world, and her argument is that that's something that needs to be addressed. And not having the best player in the world at the World Cup sends a pretty clear message to bosses in the sport.
100%, it's pretty damning. And we will be covering some of the Women's World Cup here at Football Daily, so make sure you stay tuned for that content. We'll just finish quickly with one final question. It comes from Nishay. Which manager's stock has declined the most this season? Chris, who's down in the dumps?
What? Okay, I'm going to go for maybe Jardim. Monaco not having the upturn I kind of envisaged after he returned to the club. Had that initial spike, didn't they? And just managed to survive by the skin of the teeth. But maybe Jardim.
Yeah.
I think Simeone had a really bad year. Like a couple of seasons ago, he was linked with pretty much every top job in Europe, but Atleti were poor this season. He spent a lot of money last year, the most he spent in a summer since he joined the club, and hasn't really got very much out of them. And I think also he's been too resistant to bringing fresh blood in. You know, like they'll spend money on a right back or whatever in Vashalko and now in Arias, and then they will instead still play Juan Fran. They're still relying on Felipe Luis. You know, Diego Costa came back to the club despite having knee injuries and being at the tail end of his career, and he's been dreadful. So overall, I think he's been a bit too conservative with some of his transfers, and other ones haven't worked out.
Fair. I'm not sure how much his stock has declined this year, but I was expecting a bit more out of Arsenal and Unai Emery. I know it's easy to say that after the week they had, but it was a really disappointing performance in the second half in that final in the Europa League. Didn't think they finished, well, they just didn't finish very well in the Premier League at all. Should have realistically finished 4th. Absolutely fell apart really at the back end of the year. And he's got a big summer ahead of him, and to win over lots and lots of Arsenal fans, because there's some in our office for sure who are pretty damn angry at the moment.
You're so not an Arsenal fan that you expected more from Arsenal. Like no Arsenal fan expected anything.
I just thought because there was
Arsenal.
such a limp finish from the
I
two
agree.
teams.
I
they
agree
could
with
have
that,
got 4th quite easily.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, like Arsenal being underwhelming, we should be used to it by now.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just hoping for slightly more, especially with that front line. But they can't really be faulted. But massive surgery needed in that defence. Let's roll straight into the end board. Chris, what should the good people go and do now?
Oh, well, FDFC have just launched a new series called Awkward Fever. Pato's in the first episode. We also have, obviously, Stat Wars. I think the last semi-final of the Champions has gone up featuring Zach and McCubbin. So if you haven't seen that already, then go and watch that unless it's going out tomorrow. I'm pretty confused at this point. No, it went out yesterday, didn't it? And also I did a one-on-one on mental health, so go and watch that.
100%. Pat, anything?
I think that's everything covered, though. You can check out the Games Gone Mad, Olivia Dodd's podcast, which features me and Zach being really smug about the Europa League final.
Please do that, and come back tomorrow night because we are doing a live stream for the Champions League final. Very exciting times. We'll see you then. Bye.